Before the Game Boy took the world by storm, before Nintendo redefined handheld gaming, there was a quiet revolution, one that fit in the palm of your hand. In the early 80s, amid calculator buttons and pocket-sized electronics, Nintendo lit the first spark of the handheld era. This is the story of the Game & Watch, a product born from simplicity that paved the way for everything handheld gaming would become. The spark of innovation. It began, as many Nintendo stories do, with an idea from the legendary Gunpei Yokoi. While riding a bullet train, Yokoi noticed a commuter mindlessly poking at his calculator to pass the time. That observation stuck. Yokoi wondered, what if we could build a portable game, something simple, inexpensive, and fun, just like that calculator? Nintendo, already experimenting with toys and arcade machines, greenlit the idea. The result? A series of slim, LCD-based handheld devices, each containing a single game, and a built-in digital clock. Thus the name Game & Watch. The first model, Ball, was released in April 1980 in Japan, a tiny juggler tossing two balls back and forth, challenging reflexes, and powered by little more than a watch battery. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. The growing family. Over the next decade, Nintendo released more than 60 different Game & Watch units, grouped into series like the Silver Series, the Originals, Gold, Widescreen, Multi-Screen, which would later inspire the Nintendo DS, New Widescreen, Tabletop, and even Crystal Screen editions. Each featured a unique game, its own hardware mode, and a clever use of static LCD animation. Players could stack hamburgers, dodge fire, rescue people from burning buildings, and eventually even play with Mario, Zelda, and Donkey Kong. Technical deep dive, making magic with simplicity. Under the hood, Game & Watch units were marvels of minimalist engineering. Processor. Each device used a variant of the Sharp SM5XX microcontroller, which custom ROM burned into the chip itself. Display. Instead of dynamic animation, each screen contained static LCD segments, like a calculator. Each segment was turned on or off to simulate movement. Audio. Sound was just a series of simple beeps, played through a small piezoelectric speaker. Power. Powered by just two button cell batteries, most models lasted weeks or months on a single set. But the real genius? The controls. The multi-screen Donkey Kong model, released in 1982, was the first device in history to feature the now iconic directional pad, designed by Yokoi himself. That cross-shaped input would later become a defining feature of nearly every game controller to follow. Standout games and cultural moments. Some of these tiny games became cultural icons. Donkey Kong, released in 1982, was the first to use the D-pad and became a global hit. Zelda, released in 1989, delivered surprisingly deep gameplay in a dual-screen format. Others, like Chef, Octopus, Fire, Oil Panic, and Mario Bros., kept players glued to their screens for hours. And one character, seen flipping, beeping, and bouncing in shadows, would become more than a game icon. Mr. Game & Watch, a faceless everyman, would reappear decades later in Super Smash Bros., a nostalgic callback to Nintendo's earliest handheld days. Success and simplicity. Despite their limited tech, Game & Watch units were a runaway success. They sold over 43 million units worldwide, dominating Japan, the United States, and parts of Europe throughout the early and mid-80s. Their portability and simplicity made them perfect for commuters, students, and kids. And while Tiger Electronics and other competitors would try to replicate the format, none matched Nintendo's polish or consistency. Legacy, a foundation for the future. Game & Watch was more than a toy line. It was a foundation, a testing ground for portable hardware, game pacing, and interface design. The clamshell layout of the multi-screen series became the basis for the Nintendo DS. The D-pad, first introduced here, became a global gaming standard. And Gunpei Yokoi's philosophy of lateral thinking with withered technology, using proven tech in new creative ways, would shape the DNA of every Nintendo console to follow. In 2020 and 2021, Nintendo released Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. And Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda, modern tributes to the originals, packed with retro flair and new features. Closing thoughts, looking ahead. Game & Watch didn't just change Nintendo, it quietly changed the world. And in 1989, the company would take everything it learned and introduce a new device, one that played multiple games, fit in your pocket, and sold by the tens of millions.